Buttery, addictive gourmands. These are rich, smooth scents that feel melted on your skin. They almost have this pastry gourmand quality in them that I find addictive. So having said that, today's video is for all the gourmand lovers out there looking for that pastry-like buttery goodness in a perfume. Starting off with one of my most favorite gourmand in my collection, Jany by Sora Dora. Jany smells like a freshly baked apple and apricot pie drizzled with caramel, almond flakes, and cinnamon. This is absolutely beautiful. I never thought I would love this fragrance in the beginning, as I know that it is very gourmand. However, I fell in love with it because of that buttery pastry kind of texture that I just find so addictive. This literally smells like you're having a baked apricot and apple pie while also sipping a tea in your countryside backyard. It feels so warm, addictive, and kind of nostalgic. I'm truly enjoying this fragrance, and I think Jany opened my senses to like anything buttery and pastry-like fragrances. Longevity and projection are moderate, and I find this fragrance feminine leaning. However, because of its nostalgic vibe, I can imagine a man wearing this fragrance as well. Once again, Jany by Sora Dora. Next up is the newest release of Ledda, and this is called Cafe Josephine. I've been playing around this fragrance for a while now, and I think this is the most gourmand out of her collection. I have tried all of Ledda fragrances, and I must say that this is the most realistic as well when it comes to the experience. Let me read you the notes. So it has almond, coconut milk, brown sugar, milk, coffee, espresso, vanilla, caramel, amber, and sandalwood. Now, this to me smells like a cafe. Imagine having a cafe au lait and buttery croissant. That's how Cafe Josephine smells like. The milk used in the cafe au lait is coconut milk. So having said that, it is creamy. However, it's not that thick and dense because of the coconut milk. What I'm primarily getting here is actually a buttery croissant. So very realistic gourmand. It is sweet, and I would say this is very strong when it comes to projection. I have tried almost all fragrances from Ledda, and most of them are moderate when it comes to projection. However, I find Cafe Josephine to be very strong, as in, yeah, it kind of slaps, especially for the first hour. So keep that in mind. This is definitely for gourmand lovers because of the buttery texture of the croissant in here. I will say, yes, it is more of a coffee fragrance. However, keep in mind that something very buttery is present as well in this fragrance. So I would say 50% freshly baked almond croissant and 50% cafe au lait with coconut milk and like some light drizzle of caramel on top. It definitely smells like a cafe. Well, I guess Cafe Josephine is inspired by a cafe anyway. So if you want to smell like a legit cafe, like that's your vibe, you have to keep in mind that it is also buttery, then I highly recommend you Cafe Josephine. This is like in the same ballpark as Theodoros Kalutini's Coffee Addict. So if you love Coffee Addict and also his tiramisu, yeah, so Theodoros Kalutini's tiramisu and Coffee Addict, you will love Cafe Josephine as well. I find this fragrance above average when it comes to projection and longevity. Yeah, once again, Cafe Josephine by Ledda, and I find this fragrance feminine leaning. All right, next up is a new fragrance that I recently discovered in Cannes. And guys, I don't have a full bottle yet. I got this 7 ml from the brand when I visited their showroom in Cannes. And guys, I'm blown away. This is super good. Actually, it is my scent of the day today. My husband couldn't stop sniffing me. By the way, the name of the fragrance is Doux Ennui. I hope I pronounce it right. This is Doux Ennui by the House of Oud, and I am obsessed. This is so addictive. Let me read you the notes. It has marmalade, apricot, mandarin, butter, peach, ylang ylang, salt, benzoin, vanilla, amber, osmanthus, and musk. This is a buttery, fruity gourmand of my dreams. This smells like croissant with loads of butter and apricot jam. It is so creamy, buttery, and at the same time, fluffy. I will say it is the scent bubble of this fragrance that got me so hooked. I will never forget, before I entered their showroom, there was this lady guiding me to enter the room, and she smelled absolutely fantastic, and she was wearing Doux Ennui. This is so beautiful. I don't know why I get a buttery croissant and jams in here, but the final dry down of this fragrance is whipped cream jam with a super fluffy texture that I just find so addictive. On me, this is more buttery and creamy, fluffy, almost like whipped cream, more than a fruit jam. If you are into addictive, fluffy textures, you will definitely love Doux Ennui. I've never smelled anything like this fragrance. I have tried a couple of apricot and peach fragrances that almost smells like cake, but nothing smells like Doux Ennui. I absolutely love this fragrance. Very gourmand, and to me it's kind of like shocking as well, as I don't really gravitate to extremely sweet fragrances, but I notice during this season, like October and November, I gravitate towards addictive kind of gourmands. And yeah, Doux Ennui is so good. I will definitely get a full bottle. Once I finish up this 7 ml, I highly recommend it if the sound of a fluffy whipped cream texture plus buttery feel kind of fragrances sound addictive to you. This smells better in the air rather than when you smell it on your skin. This is the most addictive apricot that I have ever tried. Yes, so having said that, this is more apricot jam butter croissant with a very fluffy and creamy texture. Love it so much. Once again, Doux Ennui by the House of Oud, and I find this fragrance feminine leaning. Alright, next up is the ultimate gourmand in my collection, Le Gourmand by Jousset Parfums. It literally smells like a buttery croissant with Nutella inside. Very buttery and doughy. It is quite salty as well. So imagine a croissant with salt butter and Nutella. Definitely addictive and definitely gourmand. Le Gourmand is one of the sweetest perfumes that I have in my collection, and now is the time that I reach out for it, especially when it's raining outside and I just want to stay at home and feel cozy. This has that addictive melt on your skin butter-like texture, and of course the chocolate in here is just so addictive as well. If you're like me, you love chocolate and buttery kind of fragrances, you're gonna love Le Gourmand as well. Once again, Le Gourmand by Jousset Parfums, and I find this fragrance feminine leaning. Next up is a different kind of butter. This is Caramel Pop by Vivamor Parfums, and as the name suggests, this literally smells like a caramel popcorn. Yes, that is pretty much the description of this fragrance. This is the most realistic salted caramel popcorn scent that I have ever tried. This is something that doesn't give me headache, and what I love about this fragrance is that even though it is buttery, it has a light and airy texture. I would say one of the lightest and airiest texture in today's list. The final dry down is not that dense and thick. Very wearable in my opinion, because aside from it smelling like a salted caramel popcorn, there's also some freshness coming from the bergamot and cedar. Very appealing. It is a kind of gourmand that has that light and airy texture in spite of it being buttery and very heavy in caramel. I love this caramel popcorn scent. Once again, Caramel Pop by Vivamor, and I find this fragrance definitely feminine leaning. Alright, now we're gonna talk about some affordable options. And the first fragrance that came to mind is the new Dulzura by Paris CARNER. Guys, this basically smells like caramel popcorn, cotton candy that has buttery texture. sweet and gourmand. However, it has a light and airy texture as well. I will say actually these are the only ones that have a light and airy texture in today's list because the rest are heavy, dense, and thick. Dulzura is just done so well. It is sweet and addictive, nothing cloying, very light and airy, especially in the final dry down. It also has that vanilla scented buttercream feel to it that I am enjoying so much. This is a kind of gourmand for beginners, I think, because even though it is full-on gourmand, it is extremely likable. In the base, there's a clean-smelling sweet vanilla and musk that made this fragrance enjoyable. I mentioned it is light, airy, and it also has that cotton candy, almost like fluffy texture that I am loving so much. I'm not going to consider this as a caramel popcorn scent, okay? It is definitely not like caramel pop, even though the opening is caramel popcorn, but that fades like in a minute. The final dry down of Dulzura is more of like a fluffy cotton candy and vanilla scented body butter lotion that is very addictive. Dulzura is one of the best Middle Eastern perfume releases this year. So yeah, you will definitely hear me talking about this fragrance a lot in my channel. Well, actually, I just did in my previous video. So yeah, if you watch that, you know that I love this fragrance. Highly recommend it. Dulzura by Paris Corner, and I find this fragrance feminine leaning. Like next fragrance, I think is the most buttery scent in today's video. Cream Velvet by Khadlaj. This is a sweet and thick caramel, honey, vanilla, tonka, and butter scent that is very addictive. If you still don't know, this is a spot-on dupe of Bianco Latte by Giardini di Toscana. And I think the only difference that I find between the two is that Cream Velvet has more of that buttery texture to it. So having said that, it is more addictive to me. It smells like honey, caramel, vanilla melting on your skin. Very sweet and gourmand. May not be for all because of the sweetness, just like the rest in today's video, but I really appreciate this fragrance. And I'm not the biggest fan of Bianco Latte, okay? However, I find Cream Velvet to be very addictive on me because of its buttery texture. So if the sound of vanilla, caramel, honey, and butter sounds appealing to you, I highly recommend you checking out Cream Velvet by Khadlaj. All right, and last but not the least is my favorite vanilla pastry in the Middle Eastern market, Empire Victor by Khadlaj. Now, this to me smells like a vanilla cake covered with buttermilk frosting with thin lemon shavings on top. Extremely addictive. I have raved about Empire Victor the moment I received it. So by now you know how much I love this fragrance. Truly an addictive scent. It is buttery and at the same time it has that powdered sugar feel to it. I don't find this fragrance extremely sweet though, compared to, for example, Le Gourmand and Cafe Josephine. I think these two are the sweetest in today's list. Empire Victor is not that dense as well. It is buttery and powdery at the same time. It's so good and yeah, highly recommend it if the sound of a vanilla cake with buttermilk frosting sounds appealing to you. Once again, Empire Victor by Khadlaj. I find this fragrance feminine leaning as well. So that is the video for today, guys. Those are the buttery addictive gourmands that I have in my collection. What do you think of them? Do you have any perfume in mind? Please let me know in the comments down below. Once again, thank you all so much for watching and see you in my next one. Bye!